This is hour 4, FiestaCon FXPHD. And
Hey,
it's
John.
happy hour in Mexico City.
Mexico City. Edgar, are you there?
I've got my cerveza of choice down here.
Cheers. Cheers.
Pacifico. I'm actually going to be doing my margarita recipe. It's a little less, I loved earlier a little higher end cocktail going on, but this is a simpler cocktail in the middle of it. So hey, thanks for letting me be part of this, and I really enjoyed. Actually, I didn't want Mark and Walter's session to end. Honestly, that was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Hey, John, I don't have a movie from Mexico because we were due to go there and run some iColorist classes this year.
Yeah. Yep.
Didn't happen, but we did go to Bogota. So I'm just going to run a 1-minute movie because Bogota's sort of in your wheelhouse of time zones, isn't it? They do like their happy hour there. So see whether we can do something.
The happy hour starts at like 9 in the morning.
Yeah, and they love their dancing there as well, don't they? They do. They do like to party. So let's see whether we can do this. Fantastic architecture on every corner. This makes Bogota a visual feast. Bogota is 9,000 feet above sea level. Just try riding a bike. Congo Film School hosted our ICA training classes. Students came in from all over Latin America, and I was really impressed with the standard. It's the most enthusiastic crowd I've ever seen at a mixer. Leo Otero from 235 Digital was my guest on the Color Tour podcast. It was great to sit down with ICA's latest colorist, Diego Jama. Thanks to Congo Film School and all the students to help make the 2 weeks a great success. One thing for sure, we will be back. Woo! That was a bit of fun, wasn't it, Kevin?
That was a lot of fun. It really was. And like you said, such an amazing turnout from all over South America.
Yeah, but that mixer, man, we had this funky little bar, and there must have been 200 people in there.
Oh my God,
and they were just going off for these prizes and the beers and cocktails. I must admit, it was probably the most out there mixer we ever ran.
250 people.
Yeah. Hey, Javi, how are you, buddy?
Fine.
Yeah, Javier and Diego were there with us in Bogota, and it was good fun. We wanted to do something this year, but maybe next year we'll hope to do that. But this is what brings us on to chatting to John, because obviously we can't do our classroom thing, so we're doing other things like virtual classes and FXPHD, which is what John is the founder of. And John, if you can give us a little background of what FXPHD is, then we can talk about what we're going to do this year.
John, you're muted.
Yeah, we need you.
Yep. And I'll warn you that I am here. This is not a backdrop. This is actually where I live in Jalapa, Mexico right now. And the road's nearby, so there's a crowd of 20 steer that came by earlier and motos and everything. So may get a little loud in the background here. But we started FXPHD as just an online training site. Mike and I always thought when doing training, we liked the idea of doing something that was just like having a junior artist sitting next to you, right? And you're just kind of explaining as you're working, not a really scripted, heavily type training, but more kind of informal, kind of how we teach the people coming up in the world. And so that's how we kind of started it. We got involved with Warren. Can I do a screen share here? Yeah, I think I can. Let me play my, actually, you know what? I'm just going to start really quickly. I'm here. This is where I am right now. Can you see? I don't know if you can see that. But this is Jalapa, Mexico. It's a place only accessible by boat. There are no cars here, which is pretty crazy. And I'm able to actually be here because they have this line of sight Wi-Fi back about 20K over to Puerto Vallarta, and then they beam Wi-Fi down into the town. And at night, I'm using probably 50% of the bandwidth, Warren, to send you footage for your upcoming FXPHD classes, taking over the Wi-Fi there. So it's pretty cool. And yeah, this is actually this is kind of the eagle eye of where I'm set up right now with my setup here. So it's a very tech non-Yalapa kind of thing. But
Wow,
anyway,
John,
so that's
you might win a photograph for that setup. That could be the best one I've seen so far.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah, and it's been good, and it's been wonderful to be down here during this time. I'm thankful that I'm able to work and continue on doing FXPHD. Obviously, you know, things have gotten shifted a bit. Kevin, we're working with Kevin on a new course that we're going to be talking about in a bit, and we ran into COVID problems from that, right? A couple months ago with the shutdown there in London.
There was some benefits, but yes, it was a huge problem.
Yeah, and I think, and Warren, with you as well, the V17, which just finally came out, I'm sure was likely impacted by COVID. Maybe it wasn't, or that was part of it. But so yeah, I feel fortunate to be able to be down here, keep working, actually film some interesting stuff for working the courses, and actually maintain and keep FXPHD going. It's been a good thing. But I actually am really interested because I haven't had a lot of time with V17, but I'm curious from your guys' standpoint. Warren, I don't know if you've used it much, you're just coming off a big job, but like what's one of the main things that you're kind of interested in diving into in V17?
Straight off the bat, I'll be honest, I haven't used it that much because I've been working on a big movie that required me to be on 16, and I had to share project files with the post house. So I haven't seen it as much as I would have normally done, but I have had the beta and I have had the keycaps on the panels. A lot of people have been asking me about the keycaps, and it is a big improvement because, to be honest, those panels were a little bit tired and they didn't keep pace with the software. And I was constantly on to Mr. Chamberlain saying, can we do? He said, yeah, I'm doing it. He finally did it, and the mapping is good. I'm getting used to it. So it's completely new mapping. I do like that feature. I think the magic mask thing is pretty awesome as well. Very good neural engine learning there for people and shapes. And the third one, being able to sort your timeline and, you know, strike out timelines and do a bit more of that management, because sometimes we end up with quite complex timelines on some of these jobs, all our different versions. So they're probably my three.
Yeah. So I'm curious, what do you think, how long is it going to take you to get that muscle memory back? I mean, that's the horrible thing about whenever they change keys, commands around, because Alexis was actually talking about earlier, that idea of being kind of instinctive in your work, right? You can talk and you can do your stuff, and you're going to have to think about it, right, for a while with all those changes.
Yeah, the only way, I mean, we get used to using the mouse, and what I especially do for the training, because if I don't use the mouse, none of the kids out there are going to see where I'm moving things. But I find when I'm doing a job, I'm then using the mouse again because I get entrenched in that. And anyone getting any panel, this is the mini panel, the Blackpool, anything that you're using, you've got to try and get that mouse or that pen away, because there is a button for it. And if you don't go looking for it, you're never going to learn it and use it and realize the benefits for using a panel. And we know the whole benefit is that we can sit and look straight at our grading monitor that's normally in front of us, and we're not able to keep turning to our software all the time. And that's the big advantage of it. Yeah, it's tired. You get less tired.
Right. Well, Kevin, what about you? What are you kind of really looking forward to in V17? And did you have much time to actually look at it yourself?
I'm in the same boat, so I haven't had much time. Just a couple of weeks back, I had a remote grade job, so I had to stick to 16 on that. And I've got a couple of jobs in the pipeline, so I've got it running on a spare PC. For me, the obvious big one is the new HDR tool, which, you know,
I was hoping you'd say that.
Yeah, well, I think it's badly named. I mean, it shouldn't be called HDR. It should just be called the zone tool or something like that. But it's very much in keeping with my style of grading. And I've played around a little bit with it, and I think that I'm going to really enjoy that. So that's a big one. I think also it's great that they've introduced this kind of black magic color space for the timeline. I haven't had much time with that, but I think that was something that needed to happen, because a lot of the Resolve color management was very display referred, and moving out of 709 into a bigger color space is going to help so many people without them even knowing why it's better. It'll just be better. So that's a really cool feature. And just overall, I mean, this has been the biggest upgrade for colorists for the color page for years, I think. I haven't tried the magic mask, but somebody demonstrated that to me the other day in a class, and that looked pretty amazing. And the new secondary tool, I forget what they call it now, but the what's it called? The kind of spider web thing where you can move stuff around. That again fits very neatly into the way that I like to do things. So yeah, really excited about the tools themselves, actually getting new tools to play with, and tools that are what we've been asking for. So not just somebody coming along and saying, oh, well, we can do this now, but actually tools that we really want and can use.
I've got a question, Kevin. I got a question.
Yeah.
Sorry, John, just a quick question.
No, go ahead.
Do you think it's come to the time when we do a 101 class, we should just go straight into color managed workflows?
I do that now. I do that now. Yeah. So in my matrix class, I've stopped sort of leaving it until an add-on at the end of the class and saying, you know, come to the next class to learn about color management. And I just encourage everybody to go straight into some form of color management. My own favorite is ACES, but you know, I don't really mind what color management you use. I just think that's really the only way you should be working nowadays.
Yeah, it's at that tipping point now, isn't it, where we really could go, well, this is where you start, you know, and then people are learning it right from the beginning.
Well, and to be honest, it makes life so much easier. I think Mark and Walter kind of alluded to this earlier. If the process of seeing what the creative intent on set was can be done automatically, and then we can get stuck in and do our creative part, why not do that? Why force ourselves to go through this sort of manual labor just to get a 709 out of the system?
Yeah, I found it really seems to me that working, especially with ACES and setting up that way from the start, is actually really helpful, because it takes care of a lot of the heavy lifting and figuring out that, you know, the kind of things that you need to do. For me, relatively new Resolve user, I thought it was really useful because I was kind of confused at the first point of what was happening under the hood in Resolve. And I think it's nice to see them improving that. And for you guys, it's got to be nice too with this release, not to be, I mean, maybe be a bit critical, let me just say that, but for you, the colorist, in the last several releases, it's been kind of weighted a little bit more towards editing and effects, right? Did you feel neglected over those past? I mean, you know, maybe that's too harsh, but it's kind of nice to see some love on the color page for you guys.
I would say that it's a very difficult juggle for the guys at Blackmagic, because they have a huge demographic, don't they? From the Walters and the MTOs at the top down to your YouTube and wedding people at the bottom. There's a huge scope, and trying to keep everyone happy is difficult. And I think probably there was a little bit of missing there for the color people for a while. And I'm excited about this new color management as well. There's some really cool tools in there, which is good if you are using Resolve at any level. So it just ticks a lot of boxes, 17, I think.
Yeah, and okay, Warren. So what's the deal? Why isn't the training out yet? What's the bottom line in the?
Is it not out? I thought it was in. I thought it was in the shops for Christmas. The true story was, I get old because every year we go, oh, we're going to do some more, and I keep going, I'm too old, and let pass the baton, and someone says, oh, I'll do another one. So we agreed to do another one of my training series that we did start a few years back. And we thought, well, it should be out about September. Let's aim to shoot then. No. Oh, well, let's move it to, and we've rented this really tasty house up in Noosa. If anyone knows, it is lovely, and it's quite expensive. Because I said, let's go to this house and shoot there, and we can have beautiful vistas and everything. So we've now cancelled.
No grading in a dark room.
And to be honest, I have not been on it. and I can't do a training series if I haven't used the software. I wasn't going to come out with some little video the week after I'd got it, and I just can't. So we're going to shoot in January. That'll give me a time to do a couple of jobs, sit down on it. And so hopefully we're looking at a February release for Resolve 101. We're doing an intermediate sort of advance. So if you've used it a bit, that'll be the one for you. And then I want to do just a V17 update. And it's probably 16 update because I know a few people are still on 15. Yep. So that's the idea of where I'm thinking, and we want to shoot in January.
Yeah, and I think what we used to do in the past is you'd redo the advanced and the fundamentals one, the intro level one, and I kind of like the idea that you had of doing this V17 update one, which is just previously people who had bought those, they got a discount, they'd have to kind of watch through the whole video to see stuff again. And with this new one, for the previous purchasers, previous people, and all the experienced colorists out there, this is going to be a really good way of just getting up to speed with the new features in the software without, you know, cutting through all the other stuff or going through all the basics that you might have to do before, which is good. You know, I'm going to switch gears. I'm going to go ahead time-wise. And, you know, Kevin, I'm really excited. We were hoping to have this new course that you've done completed by now, but as we say, we ran into some COVID issues with the lockdown in London. Why don't you tell us about your new course? Because I think this is going to be killer, not just for colorists, but for effects artists and other people as well.
Yeah, it's going to have a very wide audience. So it's called An Introduction to HDR, and that's exactly what it is. There were two problems really with setting up the course. The first one is that normally I teach this course with at least one and sometimes two or three expensive high-end reference monitors. And I wanted to write the course for FXPHD so that even if you don't have a reference monitor, an HDR reference monitor, you could still get a lot out of it. And then as I was going through the course materials, I realized that actually, if I structure it right, you should really take this course before you invest in an expensive HDR display, because there are so many misconceptions about HDR, and certainly creating HDR content. So that's really what it is. It sets out to describe what HDR is, how it's made, how we work it as colorists. There's a little bit too about the cinematography and the things that work, the things that don't work. There is a lot of emphasis on the difference between working for SDR and working for HDR. And people often say to me, well, it's a bit like just going from 2K to 4K, isn't it? Like, well, really, you haven't even begun to understand at that point. Right. And the analogy I always like to use, I think the first one I use in the course, is think of it as like going from black and white to color. Imagine you've been grading black and white TV for the last 20, 30 years, and now you've suddenly got to deal with color TV. It's that big a change. Everything changes. And it was a lot of fun to do. As you said, we had a lot of trouble finding somewhere to shoot because we were in total lockdown. The good news was that Dolby were revamping their building. So they had building works going on. The whole building was gutted. The one room that was still running was the grading room, which had a Sony X300 and a Pulsar, the 4000 nit Dolby Pulsar in it. And so we managed eventually, after a couple of failed attempts, we managed to shoot in there for a week around the drilling and so on. So I've just seen a couple of the classes in edit now, and the drilling is all gone. So that's good. No, it's great. It's a really nice course.
Yeah, you had to stop and start occasionally, you said, to work around
several times. Yeah, several times.
Big fun. Hey, I'm curious though, like, do you have any kind of ideas on, I think you've done this before in a previous session, but on kind of monitors that might be useful for people who are looking to get into this from kind of an entry level to high end? Do you have any recommendations, or is that too hard of a thing to do to really recommend?
No, and we do certainly talk about this in the course. And for me, there's 4 tiers, I suppose, of monitors. There's your true professional reference monitors, and all of them are north of $20,000. What we've seen in the last 12 months really is a very nice entry level HDR display at around under $5,000. And the two big ones there are the Asus ProArt series. There's the 32 UCX and the 27 UCX. Beautiful, beautiful monitors. They go up to about 1200 nits. They are single layer LED LCD screens, which gives them this extra brightness. It gives them potentially a problem in the blacks that you get this halation effect, but they've created a special screen that improves that by about 8 times, I think, and it gives you a viewing angle of about 180 degrees. So those are really great. And there's a new one just out from Dell, which solves the problem. It's the similar technology, not the same screen, but it's similar technology, but it uses 2000 backlight zones to reduce the halo effect. And that's the UP3221Q. That's the one. Sorry, not an easy one there. For some reason, they're not easy numbers to remember. But right. Yeah, the 2000 zone Dell is also quite nice. Not as bright as the Asus, but with the more zones, then a little bit tighter on the black end of the spectrum. So those come in as pretty good. And then you've got the potential to use some of the better televisions, the Sony, the LG, and the Panasonic OLEDs. So with those, though, you're going to have to spend a little bit of extra money and time calibrating them. I don't really recommend that myself, but people are using those in grading suites. And then the last option, which is if you're not going to actually do any grading, if you have something like the ISO 319X, and indeed most of the FSI monitors, they support HDR with the PQ curve and HLG curves, but only up to about 300 nits. So you can't get the real feel of HDR. You definitely can't make creative choices on it.
Right.
But you can play back stuff and at least get a bit of a feel for it. So it kind of depends where you are in the market as to which way you're going to go.
It's practice, isn't it? You just got to try and get, at some stage, you got to get something and start to get a feel for it, because it's too late once the job's landed. That's the tricky thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think that with the Asus and the Dell in particular, I mean, those are great for practicing on. If you do land a big job, then that job is going to have to pay for the big time monitor. But right. I mean, I've done several jobs where I've prepped it on the Asus and then I've taken it somewhere and checked it on an X300, and I've not had to change anything. So it's definitely doable. It's definitely a viable option, but you definitely need to get used to it because it is really like nothing you've ever done before.
Right. And Kevin, we got a couple questions in the chat that I just wanted to mention really quickly, and that was someone is asking about Resolve 17. Is your course in Resolve 17?
No, so Resolve 17 wasn't out when we filmed it, right. So it is on Resolve 16, but most of the content is evergreen. There's right. There'll obviously be a few techniques in 17 that we couldn't do in 16, but 99% of the course is evergreen, and it's really just to get you up and running, what to look for, how to read the scopes, right. What sort of things you need to fix in HDR. And it talks a lot about workflows. Are you going to do the SDR first and trim up to HDR? Or are you going to do the HDR first and trim down to SDR? Are you going to be doing Dolby Vision? So we go through why you would use all of these different workflows and techniques.
Right, a little bit more, it's more about HDR necessarily than the application and the use of the application, right?
Yeah, and that leaves us room to do a Resolve 17, more of a grading one at a later date. We'll see how this one goes first.
I just want to share something too with Warren here, actually.
Haven't changed a bit, no?
No. It's like, it's been a fun run with you. You know, it's 14 years now. You're one of the very first people to do a course with us at FXPHD, and I just thought you'd get a kick out of that.
No, it's like there's a
Still
few
sporting
extra
still sporting the black and white shirts.
Yeah,
You've lost a bit of hair though, Warren.
Well, I have,
Yeah,
and I
okay.
must
I'll
admit,
take that off.
mate, if we are shooting early January, that gives me about 14 days to lose about 20 pounds.
Right.
Over Christmas, you must be joking.
Oh, mate, that's going to be a tough run, John. Can't we postpone it again until Warren gets split? John, you're going to give away some stuff?
Yeah, I think so. So we didn't. We're going to give away a package, a mega pack of Warren's new Resolve 17 training that's coming out hopefully in February that we talked about. The package of all the courses that will be available. One copy of the Introduction to HDR that Kevin's doing, and we're going to actually hopefully have that released by Christmas. And we're trying. It's just, you know, editing. It takes a while. And then also a 3-month membership to FXPHD. The problem is some of these quiz questions we haven't gotten to because it was related to the Margarita recipe that I was going to share, but looks like we might be out of time.
No, we're good. We're good. Look, there's a list of good names. Look at that lot.
100 people. That's not too shabby.
No, that's good. I like that. Look at that. There's some real famous people in there.
Nice. Good to see some familiar
Remember,
names
you
in
can
there.
join at slido.com if you haven't already. Use the QR code. Works really well. Probably best to do it on a separate device. Just leave it open for the whole gig. And this will be good for our polls as well when we run a few polls.
Yeah, it's better. I like having it up on the iPad or something. That's a good to have it somewhere else.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, you're going to enter, John, are you?
Yeah, that'd be fun. Yeah, especially with, you know, we're gonna have to see people's tequila knowledge in this quiz.
All right. Well, Alexa should be a shooting.
Yeah, exactly.
There's still people coming in. It's all right. We're just eating into our breakout room. This is our breakout room.
So yeah.
We're gonna go to a breakout.
I just want to show you. You can't see because I guess it's not on my list, but I was going to do a Margarita recipe, and it's super simple. It's definitely lower key than what Alexis did. I really respect the craft cocktail scene, but in Yelapa and in Mexico, it's usually just super simple. And really, it's just my favorite Margarita recipe down here is 3 parts tequila, 2 parts lime juice, 1 part sugar, and a splash of Grand Marnier or orange liqueur of some kind. Super simple, you know, mess with the levels. Doesn't have to be super fancy. The idea is you're on a beach, got some tahine on the rim, which is tahine is a salt spice with chili and lime. I recommend it as opposed to salt on the rim. So if you can get tahine, I probably don't have that in Australia or maybe around outside the United States. So
cool. Right, I think we can run this quiz master.
Let's run it. All right. So when did we release the first ever online course? It was the first ever online course.
Yeah, well, it was the first.
Back then, Resolve was what? How many dollars was Resolve back there?
Well, it was Resolve 6 and DaVinci 2K.
Right. So
give you a clue.
Different price point, right? At that time.
Was a different price point, yeah.
Kind of like Flame was back in the day. Yeah.
It was. Oh, good
there
score.
We go. 61% were paying attention or watching.
Yeah, I think that photo was a big clue, John. The photo was a big clue.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. So yes, so 2006, correct answer there. So yeah, so this is one. This is you're gonna have to guess this one because we didn't talk about it at all due to the time. But I'm a big fan of agave-based drinks down here in Mexico, and one of these is not an agave-based drink. It should be kind of easy if you know about cocktails and things like that, because there's one that's quite obvious. My favorite here is this. Oh, I'll wait till after the time limit, I guess.
Oh.
Okay. Yep. About half. Yeah. About half. Got it right. It's michelada, which is, of course, or cielo rojo. Sometimes they call it tomato juice or clamato with beer of your choice and some spices. Ricea is the local moonshine here. And for last question here, you'll kind of have to guess on this one because we didn't get to it, but we'll see. And these are all the U.S. tablespoon measurements. I realize that I'm talking, when you're talking to world audience, you've got the imperial, so you've got Australian teaspoons, you've got imperial teaspoons, you got U.S. teaspoons.
Yeah.
It's a bit hard to judge, but if you remember,
I like it.
The hint I gave really quickly, and I'll say it now. If you just remember 3, 2, 1. You'll be in the right slot to creating a good margarita.
Ooh.
So pretty good, 37%, about 40%. Close the audience got that one correct.
Yeah, because I think colorists know all about mixing drinks.
Yeah, certainly. And I really, I love the session with Alexis. I'm actually going to tune in. Set the alarm for his other ones. I enjoyed his first one so much.
Well,
but
6A is coming up reasonably soon, I think. Not too far away now.
Yeah.
Back.
I especially liked his juicer. Much fancier than mine. I don't know if you can see this. I don't know if I'm probably not full frame or whatever. We got that screen share on full frame, but Alexis has this big, huge, really nice, beautiful fruit squeezer on his carton. But I love this Mexico one. Super simple, like $1, 20 pesos or something like that. Certainly good for mixing the lime. So if you don't have the bucks for the big one like Alexis has, this little tiny one works well.
All right. We got the answers.
Yep.
The result.
So so how do we do this?
Ooh.
It's our leaderboard.
Whoa.
Wow. 3 of 3. That's impressive.
That's fast.
Yeah, and
Very fast,
Heather
yeah.
Hay. Okay, I'm not surprised Heather Hay's on that list. She's in Mexico City, and a big drinker.
Good job, Heather.
I was just chatting with her on Zoom last night. So anyway, Eduardo, Joey, Adam, we'll get in touch with you on those prizes, and we'll figure out how to do that. Someone also mentioned, guys, actually, if there'll be discount coupon available, and I think the answer is going to be yes for those of you who attended the Colorist Mixer. We're going to find some way to get a discount code for you for the training as a thanks for taking part of this. So we'll find someone. I'm sure Kevin and Warren, you've got access to contact everyone with that.
We got everyone who registered officially from Eventbrite, so we got those names. So that would be a good idea, John. That'll be good.
Nice.
Nice one.
Yeah, so we really appreciate coming out, and I appreciate you guys inviting me on this. Like I said, I've really enjoyed your presentations, and I'm actually having a lot of fun. It's one of the things. I have a lot of friends here in Mexico, but it's fun to be surrounded with your peers in some way, and I really enjoy this whole thing that you've created to kind of share knowledge, share the fun, and things like that. So thanks for doing it.